A single mother's desperate final fare leads her into the corporate world's killing fields, where evidence is erased and people disappear with professional efficiency. From the depths of my collection, the Nightmare Maestro brings you a tale of how the most dangerous predators don't hide in shadows. They operate in broad daylight with licenses and letterheads. 31 days since the eviction notice. 31 nights of Marcus sleeping on different friends' couches while Donnie stretches her rideshare earnings, trying to scrape together a deposit. The neon glow of the gas station sign bleeds into puddles as she checks her earnings, $213 short of what she needs for even the cheapest motel. Her son's text message still burns on her screen. "Mom, when can we stop staying at different friends' houses?" The car is their last lifeline, home, office, and now their only chance at stability. Each ping of the rideshare app represents another fraction of that deposit, another step toward giving Marcus his life back. The guilt of uprooting him sits heavier than the humidity choking Baton Rouge tonight. The app pings again, a high-surge fare from downtown to the industrial district. Danny's finger hovers over the screen as emergency alerts flash across the top. Unprecedented flooding expected. All drivers advised to cease operations. The fare amount makes her hands shake. Enough for 2 weeks at the motel, enough to give Marcus stability again. She can't afford to lose a single dollar tonight. Her regular passengers' warnings echo in her mind. Stories about the industrial district, about people who disappear near that old overpass. Just last week, a driver mentioned cleaning suspicious stains from his back seat after a late-night fare to that area. But desperation has a way of reshaping risk assessment, of making the unthinkable seem reasonable. The request timer counts down, 3 seconds left. A police scanner notification catches her eye, reports of gunshots downtown, suspects fleeing the scene. The location matches her pickup point. She should decline. She knows she should decline. The ping of acceptance sounds like a jail cell closing. Her headlights cut through sheets of rain as she approaches the pickup location. A figure emerges from the shadows of a closed bank, moving with the practiced efficiency of someone used to avoiding attention. He's young, wearing expensive clothes that don't match his haunted expression. The backpack clutched to his chest looks heavy in a way that has nothing to do with its contents. As he slides into her back seat, Donnie catches his reflection in the rearview mirror. His eyes meet hers for a fraction of a second, enough time to recognize another soul who's made choices they can't take back. The smell of copper fills the car, and Donnie realizes it's not just rain soaking into her upholstery. Her dashcam light blinks once, then dies. In that moment of darkness, she sees another vehicle pull away from the curb behind them, its headlights off. Every rideshare driver develops a sixth sense about passengers. Something in Danny's hindbrain screams that Corey, if that's even his real name, isn't running from the storm. His eyes never leave the side mirrors, fingers drumming an erratic rhythm against his backpack. Each traffic light bathes his face in red, revealing fresh scratches across his cheek and what looks like powder burns on his sleeve. The police scanner crackles to life, reports of a shooting at First Capital Bank, one security guard critical. Details emerge in fragments, stolen hard drives, compromised accounts, connections to something bigger. Corey's breathing changes with each update, becoming shallow, controlled. His reflection shows the precise stillness of prey that knows it's being hunted. A black SUV materializes 3 cars behind them, matching their turns with mechanical precision. Its windshield is tinted beyond legal limits, but Donnie catches glimpses of the driver, a woman with close-cropped gray hair and the rigid posture of military training. 2 more vehicles join the convoy, boxing them into a steadily tightening net. The storm intensifies, transforming familiar streets into treacherous mirrors. Donnie takes a detour to avoid flooding, but the SUV anticipates her move. The woman driver speaks into a radio, her silhouette suggesting the outline of a shoulder holster. Professional, coordinated, patient. Corey's story spills out in whispers. He worked in digital security for a private equity firm, legitimate on paper, but their servers held evidence of something rotting beneath the surface. human trafficking operations masked as overseas employment agencies, politicians bought with untraceable cryptocurrency, and Elena Vasquez, their head of security, whose specialty is making problems disappear in ways that never lead back to her employers. Lightning illuminates the woman in the SUV, Elena. Her expression carries the dispassionate focus of someone who has turned violence into an art form. The powder burns on Corey's sleeve suddenly make horrifying sense. He wasn't just a witness to the bank shooting, he was the target. Their route forces them toward the overpass, a concrete monument to municipal neglect that's been in the news for structural concerns. Elena's vehicles maintain their distance, herding them with the patience of wolves driving prey toward a cliff. The police scanner falls silent, replaced by the rhythmic thump of helicopter rotors somewhere above the storm clouds. Danny's mind races through options, each worse than the last. The rising water has cut off their escape routes, leaving only the overpass ahead, where Elena's team will have the high ground and clear lines of sight. Through the storm's fury, she catches Elena's reflection in her side mirror. The woman's lips curve into something that isn't quite a smile. The engine's death rattle echoes beneath the overpass like a final breath. Danny's hands shake as she tries the ignition again, but deep down she knows this isn't a mechanical failure. Elena's team has somehow killed the car's electronics, transforming their temporary shelter into a steel coffin. Through the rain-streaked windows, dark figures emerge from the SUVs. They move with choreographed precision, each wearing identical black rain gear that makes them seem almost faceless. Elena stands apart, her gray hair catching flashes of lightning as she directs her team with hand signals. Her movements are almost elegant, someone who has orchestrated countless disappearances in weather just like this. Corey's composure fractures. He reveals the contents of his backpack, not just account numbers and transaction records, but video files, hundreds of them, documenting Elena's work for the firm. The efficient disposal of whistleblowers, the orchestrated accidents that befell journalists, the cleanup crews that arrived before police, erasing evidence with industrial chemicals. A metallic tapping sounds from the driver's side window. Elena stands inches away, her face a study in professional courtesy. Her voice carries easily through the glass, cultured and calm as she explains their options. Surrender the evidence, die quickly, resist, and she'll demonstrate why her firm keeps her on retainer. Her smile never reaches her eyes, gray as the storm clouds above, and just as merciless. The overpass groans overhead, decades of neglect reaching a critical point as the floodwaters rise. Elena's team has positioned themselves at both ends of the structure, cutting off escape by land. But they've overlooked something, the maintenance access hatch that Donnie spotted during her desperate scan for options. The same one she'd heard other drivers mention, whispered stories about urban explorers using it to access the drainage tunnels below. A sound like splintering bone cuts through the rain as another section of concrete barrier gives way. Elena's expression shifts microscopically, the first hint of uncertainty crossing her features. The structural integrity calculations her team relied on hadn't accounted for record-breaking floodwaters. Their perfect trap is about to become everyone's tomb. Donnie makes her decision. She lunges across the seat, grabbing Corey's arm with one hand, while her other finds the door handle. Elena's reaction is immediate, but too late. Her bullet shatters the window, just as they tumble out the passenger side. The rain swallows them as they sprint toward the access hatch, the sound of pursuit, mixed with the deeper thunder of failing concrete. Behind them, Elena barks orders with mechanical precision, but for the first time tonight, her team's movements show signs of disorder. They're trained for controlled environments, not a collapsing overpass in the storm of the century. Fear, raw and human, begins to crack their professional veneer. The maintenance hatch screams as Donnie wrenches it open, revealing a vertical shaft that disappears into darkness. Decades of rust pepper her palms as she grips the first rung. Above, Elena's voice cuts through the storm with surgical precision, coordinating her team's positions with military call signs. Each command reveals her background, former special operations, her skills repurposed for corporate wet work. Their descent becomes a nightmare of spatial awareness. Every few rungs, Danny's flashlight beam catches glimpses of the infrastructure's decay, stress fractures in the concrete, exposed rebar skeleton, places where the metal ladder has nearly rusted through. The backpack, heavy with evidence, threatens to overbalance Corey with each movement. A bullet sparks off the ladder above them. Elena's voice floats down, almost conversational, as she details how they'll dispose of the bodies. She describes past operations with the detachment of someone discussing weather, bodies weighted with construction materials, timed to wash up days later in locations that discourage detailed investigation. The professional pride in her voice makes the horror worse. Halfway down, the shaft opens into a maintenance platform. Danny's light reveals a grotesque gallery, recent debris caught in the platform's grating. A wallet, a shoe, a waterlogged phone, still weakly glowing. Previous accidents that found their end in these waters. Elena's team hasn't just used this location once, it's their preferred disposal site. The platform shudders as the first of Elena's team starts down the ladder. Their breathing patterns betray their unease. They're used to controlling every variable, not navigating failing infrastructure in a flood. One of them, younger and less disciplined, keeps checking his phone's signal strength. The fear of dying unreported, uncredited, sits badly with them. Water rises with unnatural speed below, carrying chunks of the overpass's decay. Each impact sends vibrations through the platform's supports. Elena maintains her calm facade, but her orders become clipped, faster. The growing tension in her voice betrays a fundamental truth. She's losing control of her perfect killing ground. Corey's grip on the backpack slips. The evidence of countless corporate murders nearly plummets into the flood, but Danny snags it one-handed. The motion puts her flashlight beam on something that freezes her blood. Beneath the platform's peeling paint, someone has scratched a series of dates. The most recent was just last week. From above, the sound of splintering concrete drowns out even Elena's commands. Her team's professional demeanor cracks completely as physics overwhelms their tactical training. They scramble back up the ladder, leaving their commander alone on the platform with her targets. Her smile remains fixed, but her eyes hold something new, the desperate calculation of someone watching their perfect record dissolve. Elena's composure finally fractures when the platform's main support beam tears free with a sound like a gunshot. Her professional mask slips, revealing something far worse, a predator's raw desperation when its hunting ground becomes a trap. She stabilizes herself against the ladder, her movements no longer smooth but jerky, with suppressed panic. The maintenance platform pitches at a sickening angle. Donnie pulls Corey toward a narrow utility passage she spotted, a drainage overflow tunnel branching off from their precarious perch. Elena's bullet misses Danny's head by inches, the shot's accuracy compromised by the structure's increasing instability. Through the chaos, Elena's radio crackles. Her team's voices overlap with rising hysteria as they report multiple structural failures above. The overpass is coming down, and with it, every shred of their carefully maintained control. Elena's response chills Danny's blood, a quiet laugh that speaks of someone who's crossed every imaginable line and has nothing left to lose. The tunnel entrance offers salvation and horror in equal measure. Danny's flashlight beam reveals more evidence of Elena's work, marks on the walls where desperate hands clawed concrete, a collection of personal effects swept into corners by previous floods. This wasn't just a killing ground, it was a tomb for anyone who threatened the firm's secrets. Corey freezes at the sight, his earlier courage deserting him. The physical proof of Elena's efficiency triggers a panic attack. He's seen the videos, knows exactly how she likes to finish her work. Elena exploits his moment of weakness, closing the distance with predatory grace. Her gun hand remains steady even as chunks of concrete rain down around them. The choice crystallizes for Donnie in that moment. The evidence in the backpack could expose decades of corporate murders, but Corey's paralysis makes him deadweight in their escape. Elena's bullet grazes her shoulder as she makes her decision. shoving Corey through the tunnel entrance while keeping the backpack herself. The look of betrayal in his eyes mirrors the growing madness in Elena's. A support column collapses upstream, sending a wall of debris-filled water toward their position. Elena's focus never wavers. Even with death approaching from all sides, she maintains her professional protocol. One target, one bullet, no loose ends. But she's made a critical error in her calculations. She's assumed Danny has something left to lose. The platform gives way beneath them with the shriek of tearing metal. In the frenzied moments that follow, Elena's perfect record ends not with a professional execution, but with the chaos of natural forces she couldn't control. Her last expression shows something almost like respect, as physics claims its victory over methodology. The flood takes Elena with mechanical efficiency that would have impressed her, a perfect execution by nature itself. Danny doesn't watch her disappear into the torrent. Her focus narrows to survival as she scrambles into the drainage tunnel, the backpack's weight threatening to drag her down with each movement. Water pursues them through the tunnel like a living thing, hungry for more victims. Corey recovers enough to run, his fear of drowning temporarily overwhelming his terror of what the evidence reveals. Their footsteps echo off concrete walls, marked by years of similar desperate flights, not all of which ended in escape. The tunnel branches into a maze of maintenance corridors. Each intersection forces choices, with no time for deliberation. Behind them, Elena's remaining team members have found another entrance. Their flashlight beams dance through the flooding passages, accompanied by voices that have abandoned all pretense of professional detachment. Danny recognizes the growing panic in their pursuers' movements. They're trapped between the rising water and the knowledge contained in that backpack. The videos wouldn't just expose murders. They'd reveal the clients who ordered them, the politicians who covered them up, the entire system that Elena protected with such lethal precision. A wave of floodwater crashes through a side tunnel, sweeping one of the pursuers off his feet. His scream cuts off with brutal suddenness. The others falter, their training useless against primal fear. Danny seizes the moment to pull Corey into a utility shaft she's spotted, a vertical tunnel leading upward, its rungs slick with rust and age. They climb through darkness, punctuated by emergency lights that create more shadows than illumination. Each level they pass reveals more evidence of Elena's legacy: maintenance rooms converted to temporary holding cells, chemical storage areas where bodies were processed, detailed logs of successful operations dating back years. The horror of it all hits Danny in waves, not just the deaths, but the system that made them routine. Elena wasn't a monster. She was a cog in a machine that turned murder into a business expense. The real terror isn't in the killing, but in the corporate infrastructure that made it ordinary. Their ascent ends at a heavy metal door. Through its small window, Donnie sees the first signs of dawn breaking over a transformed city. But the light brings no relief. In the flooding passages below, the last of Elena's team has regrouped. Their footsteps echo closer, driven by the same ruthless efficiency that made their organization so lethal. The door opens into an abandoned municipal monitoring station. Emergency equipment blinks in the half-light, recording the city's transformation under the storm. Through rain-streaked windows, Donnie watches rescue boats navigate streets turned to canals, while helicopters circle the collapsed overpass like mechanical vultures. Her hands shake as she powers up an ancient computer terminal, plugging in one of the USB drives from Corey's backpack. The files tell a story more horrifying than any supernatural tale. Spreadsheets tracking removal costs, performance evaluations rating elimination efficiency, client lists featuring names that appeared daily in business headlines. Elena's team breaches the stairwell just as Danny finishes uploading the evidence to every news outlet and law enforcement agency in her contact list. Their footsteps carry the same professional rhythm that Elena maintained until the end. But it's too late. The truth is already spreading through digital channels they can't control. The next hours blur into a parade of federal agents and forensic teams. Corey disappears into witness protection, his testimony helping to dismantle the corporation piece by piece. Elena's body is recovered 3 days later, her professional facade preserved even in death. The medical examiner notes the gun still clutched in her hand, her finger forever on the trigger. But it's the aftermath that truly haunts Danny. Each morning brings new revelations as the evidence spreads. Respected business leaders led away in handcuffs, politicians announcing sudden retirements, entire corporations dissolving overnight. The system Elena served so faithfully crumbles like the overpass that claimed her. 1 week later, Danny uses her reward money to rent a small apartment. Marcus sleeps soundly in his own bed for the first time in months, unaware of how close his mother came to becoming another statistic in Elena's ledger. On the news, they debate corporate accountability and infrastructure failure, but miss the deeper horror, how easily murder became a line item on a quarterly report. She keeps driving the night shift, but now sees her city differently. Each corporate tower holds secrets. Each abandoned building could be someone's tomb. The true terror isn't in supernatural monsters or cosmic horrors, but in the mundane evil of efficiency experts who view human life as an acceptable cost of doing business. The final USB drive sits locked in a safety deposit box, insurance against the system that created Elena trying to rebuild itself. Sometimes, late at night, Danny catches glimpses of cars following her route with professional precision, but they never approach. Her dead man's switch, ensuring the last evidence would destroy everything if she disappeared. The horror isn't that monsters exist, it's that they wear business suits, attend charity galas, and rate their kills on quarterly performance review. If tonight's tale has you wondering what secrets wash away with each storm, or why certain corporate buildings always seem to have lights on during the worst weather, you're beginning to understand some predators do their best work when the rain keeps everyone else inside. Share your own stormy night encounters in the comments below, those moments when the weather wasn't the most dangerous thing about being stranded. Or tell us about times when your instincts warned you that someone's helpful offer wasn't quite what it seemed. Subscribe to the Nightmare Maestro's archive for more tales where nature's fury reveals humanity's darkest element. Until next time, stay dry, and remember, in the corporate world, some storms are engineered to help wash away the evidence.